Good morning, coffee lovers. My name is Russell Volts from Lake City Coffee. Today we're going to talk about how to get the best tasting, most healthy whole bean decaf coffee. So we're just going to be talking about decaf coffee today, and there's two major issues. There's one is, I don't know about you, but I want my decaf to taste as good as my regular coffee. And that's kind of a tough thing to do. Seems like most companies out there, the difference between decaf and the regular is night and day. Not the case with us, and I'm going to show you exactly why. First of all, let's start talking about the kinds of beans that people typically put in their decaf coffee. Now, here's an example with Starbucks and Thomas Hammer. I've tried dozens and dozens, hundreds literally, of decaf coffees and regular coffee beans, so I can compare mine to theirs, make sure that I've got something that's way superior. Anyway, the challenge with these is they're using not entirely Arabica beans. They're often using Robusta beans. Why? Because when they decaffeinate the coffee is so bad, why would you use really high-end beans if you're going to ruin the coffee through the decaffeination process anyway? Seems kind of silly, right? So we want to start out with really good, high-quality beans. And I know for a fact Starbucks is using some of the worst beans you can buy out there. Granted, they've got great marketing and everybody's convinced, oh man, I'm the coolest person in the world because I drink Starbucks. Well, or as my friends call it, Charbucks. Nonetheless, Thomas Hammer is another major industrial coffee company, and they're doing pretty much the same thing. So I just, as far as beans go, they don't come near the quality of what we do, and I'll talk about ours in a little bit. As a matter of fact, how do they decaffeinate? So a vast majority of we're talking way over 90% of the decaffeinated coffee in the United States is decaffeinated using chemical solvents. Those solvents are very close to formaldehyde. Yep, that's the same stuff that they embalm dead bodies with. So those solvents literally suck out of the beans the caffeine, and what you're left with is a bean that's, one, deformed, it tastes horrible, and it's laden with chemicals. You really don't want that. So stay away from that process. We don't do that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Secondly, because the beans are, one, using cheap beans, and two, all these chemicals in it, they burn the living snot out of the beans. You can see that right there. There's Starbucks typical burnt coffee beans. It's black. As a matter of fact, if you take a bean and you bust it open, right, what do you got on the inside is nothing but black. It's basically charcoal, and that's what you're drinking. The Thomas Hammer, as you can see, it's very dark, but not quite as dark as the Starbucks, which is kind of impressive. And if you bust these open as well, okay, it's a black, but not coal black, right? As opposed to ours, which we'll get to in a second. Lastly, one of the reasons that decaf coffee tastes so darn bad, typically, is they're old and stale. Neither of these bags have a roast date on it. Almost no coffee bags have roast dates on it. Why? It's crazy. I mean, typically because these have been sitting in warehouses and on store shelves for months, if not years. All coffee starts going stale as soon as it's roasted. I mean, you can tell the difference a week out, 2 weeks out, a month out, 4 months out. The difference in flavor is tremendous. So the key is how do we keep our coffee beans tasting fresh? There's only one way I know of, and that's to get rid of the oxygen. This Starbucks, which is very typical in the industry, has, you might be able to see this little ring right there. What that is a one-way valve, supposedly. So in essence, what that does is allows the beans to be roasted, thrown in a bag right away, and the beans will, right after roasting, they'll outgas for a couple of days. And as they're outgassing, the bag will get all puffed up if it wasn't for this one-way valve. The idea, one way, means no oxygen getting in. In fact, the oxygen that's inside it is still in there, right? But unfortunately, these one-way valves, they don't work. If you take a look at the barometric pressure changing, so going from a beautiful, sunny, high-pressure day to a rainy, drizzly, nasty day, that's a very low air pressure. This bag ought to inflate and deflate because of that. But with this oxygen, this one-way valve, it's actually letting the high pressure push air back into the bag, meaning you're getting oxygen in here. Oxygen is the enemy of freshness. Therefore, between these bags, they're just simply filled with oxygen, and that's why you have burnt, bitter, stale beans. Nasty. Lastly, pre-ground or whole bean. Never buy pre-ground coffee. One, you've just increased the surface area of the coffee by 100-fold by grinding it. Therefore, it's going to go bad on you much, much faster. Whole bean is the way to go. So let's put these aside, right? Set those aside. Let's not even think about that. Let's think about what we're doing and what we're doing differently. First of all, you can tell right there the color of the beans. They're a medium brown, maybe a tad bit on the dark side of brown. And I would not call that dark. It's not dark by any stretch of the imagination. The beans themselves, we buy the best beans that money can buy out of Costa Rica, specifically the Tarrazú region of Costa Rica. Why the Tarrazú region of Costa Rica? Because you get the most bang for your buck. I put this coffee up against some of the most expensive and best coffee that's packaged and sold in the United States, and we kick their butts. I found one coffee that I thought was as good as ours. Not better, but as good, and that was Kona coffee. And it was the most expensive Kona coffee. I think it ran $125 a pound retail, as opposed to ours that runs just $20 for a 14-ounce bag. So that being said, if we can kick their butts, these are great beans. Very, very high quality beans. Then we roast them so they're not burnt to a crisp, right? And how do we decaffeinate them? Instead of using chemicals, we use pure 100% water. It's called a Swiss water process. And there's only 2 plants in the United States. I think one's in California and the other is in Vancouver, British Columbia. There's only 2 places in the entire world that the Swiss water process beans are decaffeinated. And that's where we send our beans, because all it uses is water and a reverse osmosis to extract the caffeine out of the beans and then put the oils back into the beans. So you've got a coffee that is not deformed. I mean, you look at these, these beans they look like they've been through a ringer, as opposed to these nice, beautiful beans that are uniform and well-shaped, and they taste great, right? We then gently roast them, as we talked about. Everybody else goes hot and fast. We go low and slow. Lastly, most importantly, we go from our roaster to your table in 24 to 72 hours. That's one of the major reasons these beans are so darn good. Not to mention, how do we keep the oxygen out of here? We use an oxygen absorber. It's a small little packet. You've seen these packets before in dry goods. And we drop it in the bottom of it. And what it does, and we triple heat seal this. It also has a Ziploc seal that's airtight as well. So once you open it up, you use the beans, you close it back up, squeeze the air out of it as best you can. And this will keep your beans fresh for months. Months. Why? Because of that oxygen absorber is eating up all the oxygen in the bag every time you open it, and then you reclose it. So from our roaster to your table, 24 to 72 hours. It's medium roasted, very high quality beans. And with the oxygen absorber in it, this thing's going to last. And it's going to last a good long time. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please get in touch with us. My wife, Alicia, she handles all of the emails coming from our customers and people like you that may have questions. We also have a number of articles out there on how to keep out there on our website. How to keep your coffee fresh is one article. Why is my coffee bag puffed up like a balloon? How can I freeze my coffee beans? Great articles all about keeping your coffee fresh. Again, have questions? Give us an email. We'd love to help you out. Have a great day.